When a child experiences trauma or negative life events, especially at young ages, it tends to have an impact on their attachment patterns. They can feel insecure in relationships, feel anxious, and also become avoidant. This, usually, when they feel insecure and become anxious or avoidant, it affects the quality of their interpersonal relationships and can make them feel dissatisfied in their relationships.
uh, the socio-economic circumstances or parents' attachment styles and their skills are some of the factors that can determine attachment security in children. And being exposed to negative circumstances, emotionally harmful circumstances in childhood is something that can impact a child's attachment styles. It can lead to relationships being perceived as unsafe or rejective at times, or it can lead to altering a child's perception of their own self, trust in other people, perception about relationships, and perception about the world overall. A lot of the adolescents indicated feeling confused when it comes to understanding other people's behavior in interpersonal relationships, especially when there's a dissonance between what is being said and how people are behaving. So I hope for them to be able to feel less confused, um, and have a bit more clarity when it comes to understanding others' behaviors. I also hope for them to be able to reflect on their own actions in relationships and to become kind and mindful communicators and leaders.
For the adolescents' future and present relationships alike, I would really hope that they connect with others based on not just similarities but also differences. Maybe in the present they are able to recognize the ways in which the commonalities that they have with people, and slowly build capacity for respecting differences and developing a sense of curiosity towards their peers as they are stepping out and entering colleges, and soon in the work field as well, right? Like,
I hope that the adolescents have loving, caring, satisfying, and healthy interpersonal relationships. Relationships in which they can communicate their feelings, thoughts, opinions, can draw boundaries, um, in which they are brave enough to draw boundaries and are able to resolve conflicts when they arise. I hope that their awareness, you know, about relationships and the self will help them to break unhealthy intergenerational patterns, and that someday they can model healthy interpersonal relationships for younger generations. Another adolescent once mentioned sharing the knowledge she gained from, the sessions from Project Catalyst with her neighbors, and she said that after every session, she would go out and talk to her neighbors and tell them what she learned, like what she learned from the session. And on days that she'd forget as well, that her neighbors and her friends would ask her, like, what did you learn today and things like that. And I feel like there's already that, she's already sharing her awareness and her knowledge with her peers, which is something that I'd really love for all of them to do at some point. I know it might take a while, but at some point, I would like that. And it feels great to know that some of these hopes are being realized at, like so quickly. I know that all this might sound idealistic, but I felt like some of these hopes are being realized during, yeah. like during the course of the program. While conversing with an adolescent, she once mentioned setting certain limits and deciding what limits can be crossed and who can cross those limits. She was able to she was able to set boundaries in her mind and was also aware of uh, she was able to set boundaries in her mind and also decide which boundaries who could cross which boundaries. And I thought that was impressive because in just one session, like after just one session, she was able to do this. And yeah, I feel like sometimes these concepts can be hard to grasp and hard to practice, but she was able to do it. So I feel like some of these hopes are being realized.
With the adolescents, there were some who reported that they had applied using I statements, and or some for some it was a little tricky, but at least they have attempted, to express themselves, and that is a very big deal, right? Is what I felt. At least I felt it's a huge deal that they they carry these these things that we teach, and they apply it. They go home and they apply it in their lives, and um, they are able to recognize their support system. They are able to categorize, that in my immediate circle, like the closest support circle that they have, who is in it, and they're able to identify people who have, they were once close and maybe now they're not so close, and they are okay with people entering their social circle as well as leaving the social circle.
Another adolescent once mentioned sharing the knowledge she gained from, the sessions from Project Catalyst with her neighbors. And she said that after every session, she would go out and talk to her neighbors and tell them what she learned, like what she learned from the session. And on days that she'd forget as well, that her neighbors and her friends would ask her, like, what did you learn today and things like that. And I feel like there's already that, she's already sharing her awareness and her knowledge with her peers, which is something that I'd really love for all of them to do at some point. I know it might take a while, but at some point, I would like that. And it feels great to know that some of these hopes are being realized at, like so quickly.
It is interesting that they are able to also um, have certain expectations from a leader. They understand and empathize the responsibilities that a leader carries. They um, some of them understand that a teamwork requires a certain capacity to communicate. Some people recognize the areas that they really need to work on, or they could use some support into enhance a certain leadership skill, and they know that a certain leadership skill they are good at. So that was quite self-reflective.
I thoroughly enjoyed facilitating these sessions. I feel like I'm part of this life changing project. It has also been challenging, like to explain abstract topics like attachment patterns, boundaries, and empathy. It is challenging, to find the vocabulary around it, how to condense these into simple sentences so that they're able to understand it with ease, to find the vocabulary around it. Developing these modules has taught me a lot as well, especially when it came to conflict resolution. I learned so much, and I have some takeaways from these sessions which I consciously use in my life.
After this session, they seem to connect more with us, the facilitators, and some of them would even stay back after the session, and they would just talk to us about a certain conflict they might be facing with a peer, or I think it just opened up some avenue of communication and trust, and it has really deepened our bond, as facilitators, and they just felt so comfortable. And I think the most valuable feedback was how they like that, that the Akas, the TLC Akas, speak in such a gentle manner, and they say it, and the way we communicate, it really has an impact on these children. They really bond just with the tone. They are able to build a level of empathy, and they say, like, no one, this is very new to us, that someone is teaching us in such a gentle voice. It's something as simple as that is like, makes them feel very comfortable with us, and that was an interesting feedback for us. And talking about leadership, talking about conflict resolution, communication, these are all very practical topics. It was very insightful to teach these, to take up these topics.